Today we're going to take a look at polygon multiplication. What that means is that we're going to basically multiply what it says is multiply binomials by monomials, binomials, and trinomials. Monomials means basically there's only going to be one term, so that'd be like 4. Binomial means there's two terms, so that'd be like a minus 3. And a trinomial means there's three terms, such as x squared minus 5x minus 3. So the terms are always going to be separated by either a plus or a minus sign as you look at these. And that's how you can tell how many terms there are. So there's a monomial times a monomial times a binomial, monomial times a binomial. There's a monomial times a trinomial. This is a monomial times a trinomial. On the next few pages and few examples, we'll talk about mainly binomials times binomials using the FOIL method. That's mainly what we're going to look at. Let's quickly work through simplifying each product basically using the distributive property. When we do this, we basically say 4 times a and 4 times negative 3. 4 times a is 4a. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. That's our final answer. Negative 5 times x is negative 5x. Negative 5 times negative 2 is a positive 10. Remember that a negative times a negative does give you a positive. 3 times 5x gives you 15x. 3 times negative 6 is negative 18. 11 times n is 11m. 11 times 12 is a really big number. We better figure out what that is. In your calculators, you can just type in 11 times 12. 11 times 12. And you'll realize that 11 times 12 is 132. I'm not sure where that line came from. Let's try that again. 11 times 12 is 132, and that would be our final answer. This next one we're going to actually distribute over all three pieces here. So we'll say negative 2 times x squared is negative 2x squared. Negative 2 times negative 5x is positive 10x. Notice I can't combine these two because this is an x squared term. This is an x squared. I'm sorry, this is an x term. So an x squared term and an x term, they're different. This is negative 2 times negative 3, which is a positive 6. I'm not sure what happened down here. This is just negative 10x. 4 times x squared is just 4x squared. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. Notice there is no x term in this binomial. There's just a x squared term and a constant term. This is a little bit different. We'll take 4r times r. What that gives us is it doesn't give us 4 times r, just gives us 4r squared. Remember, r times r is r squared. 4r times negative 1 is negative 4r. W times w gives you w squared. W times 1 is just w. 4q times q is 4q squared. 4q times negative 7 is negative 28q. This will be a little bit more complicated. We have a monomial times a trinomial, and there's a squared term. Oh boy. 6h times h squared is just 6h cubed. Remember, 1h and 2h, we're basically adding our exponents there. This is 6h times 8h, which gives us 48h squared. Remember, we're just adding the h's. There's 1h, there's a second h, so we add the exponent. And 6h times negative 3 is negative 18h. There's a little note at the bottom that says write in standard form. What that means is that you're going to write in decreasing powers of the variable. What that means is that your biggest term, like your h cubed, is going to go first. Your next biggest, h squared, is going to go second. And your next term, h, is going to go last. In this case, we have x squared first, then x, then the constant. Here we just have an m term, and we have a constant term. So that's why these are all written in standard form with just decreasing powers of the variable. So here's 3, here's 2, here's 1, and there would be a constant at the end if we needed one. Alright, let's look at something else. It's called the FOIL method, and we're basically going to be multiplying not just a monomial, but a binomial times a binomial. Okay? The idea here is we're going to multiply the first terms. That just means 2x times x, which is the distributive property. We'll say 2x times 4, which are basically the outside terms. The outside, like the far side over here, and the far right side over here. The inside terms, that'd be 3 times x, and then the last terms, which would be 3 times 4. They're both the last terms of the parentheses. So it's kind of a nice way, a mnemonic device to kind of remember the order in which to do this. Which is the FOIL method, is what a lot of teachers will say. And all we're really doing is we're saying, hey, we're going to take 2x times each of these things in parentheses. When we're done with that, we're going to take 3 times each of these things in parentheses. So 2x times x, that'd be 2x squared. 2x times 4 gives us plus 8x. 3 times x is plus 3x. And 3 times 4 is 12. I'm not done yet because I need to combine alike terms. So what I have is 2x squared plus 11x plus 12. And that'll be our final answer. So we went through, we multiplied the first terms, the outside terms, inside terms, and the last terms. And we just have to combine if there's any common terms in between. We'll do the same thing here. Multiply the first terms and the outside terms. That'd be 6h times 2h is 12h squared. 6h times positive 3 is plus 18h. Then we'll say the inside terms, which is negative 7 times 2h, which is negative 14h. And negative 7 times 3 is negative 21. And then combine our middle terms. We have 12h squared plus 4h minus 21. This becomes our final answer. Let's try this again. We'll say the first terms, that'd be 5m times 8m, which is 40m squared. Because they both have m's, we make that m squared. The outside terms, that's 5m times negative 1, which is negative 5m. The inside terms, that's 2 times 8, which is 16m. And the last terms, which would give me negative 2. I'll combine my middle terms because they're both m's. So that's 40m squared plus 11m minus 2. I'll try this again. The FOIL method, the first terms, that's 9 times 7 is 63. A times a is a squared. 9 times 4 is 36, and there's just one a. Negative 8 times 7 is negative 56, and there's one a. And negative 8 times 4 is negative 32. I'll combine these. I'll have 63a squared. 56 and 36 would give me negative 20a. This would just give me negative 32 at the end. I think we're really getting somewhere here. This next one, it's 3x times 2, which would give me 6x squared. It's 3x times 7, which is positive 21x. This would be negative 10x. And then finally, negative 35. Combine similar terms, so that'd be the two inside terms. I'll combine those, and that'd be 11x minus 35. The first terms, we'll multiply 3x times 2x to give us 6x squared. 3x times 5 is positive 15x. 4 times 2x is positive 8x. And then 4 times 5 is just positive 20. If I combine terms, that's 6x squared. This would be plus 23x. And finally, my constant term, plus 20. Is a trinomial because there's 3 terms, 1, 2, and 3. Let's finish off this page. It looks like we have 3x times 2x, which would be 6x squared. 3x times negative 5 is now negative 15x. 4, the inside terms, 4 times 2 would be plus 8x. And 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. I combine terms, I'll have 6x squared minus 7x minus 20. Next problem is really similar. The second binomial is exactly the same. The first one's just a little bit different. Notice the negative sign here versus the positive sign here. We'll see how just one tiny little thing that's going to be changed will end up changing our answer quite a bit. So we'll have 3x times 2x, that's 6x squared. That's the first terms. The outside terms, that's 3x times negative 5, that's negative 15x. I'll have the inside terms, that's negative 4 times 2x, that's negative 8x. And I'll have negative 4 times negative 5, that'll give me a positive 20. When I combine like terms, I still have 6x squared. That's the same. And I'll have negative 23x and plus 20. So that little minus sign changed two of our terms pretty dramatically. Let's see what else happens. We have 5x times 6x, that'd be 30x squared. We have 5x times 2, that'd give me plus 10x. We have 8 times 6x, that's plus 48x. And I have 8 times 2, that's positive 16. When I combine terms, that's 30x squared plus 58x, those are big numbers, plus 16. There it is. The next term, number 10 here, I have a monomial, just one number sitting on here. I'm just going to multiply it by each of these terms on the inside of parentheses. This is basically just using the distributive property. Pretty simple. I threw in some easy ones near the end. So that's 5x times x, that's 5x squared. That'd be plus 30x, and that gives me my final answer there. We're going to FOIL this next one, though. Notice it is a binomial times a binomial. So I just multiply the first terms, that'd be 2x squared. I multiply the outside terms, that'd be minus 2x. I multiply the inside terms, that's positive 2x. The last terms, that'd be negative x. Notice in the middle here, I have negative 2x and a positive 2x. So all that happens is I have 2x squared. These two, in essence, basically cancel each other out, and I have minus 2. So I have 2x squared minus 2. Now some people will ask me, can I just change this to x squared? And that doesn't work because this is a x squared term and this is a constant term. You can't combine them, so you can't subtract 2 from this term. You can't just eliminate the 2's. So be careful not to go any further than this. This is as far as you can go with this. We'll take x times both of these terms here. This would be x squared. That would be minus 2x. That's my final answer. I'm done. Those are really easy. Let's try something a little bit more complicated. We will not be using the foiling method, but pretty similar idea here. We'll take this first term times each term in the trinomial. Oh man. So that's 2x times, 2 times 4 is 8, and x times x squared is x cubed. 2x times x is just going to be 2x squared, and 2x times negative 6 is negative 12x. What I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to line these up just a little bit differently. I'm going to take negative 3 times the 4x squared. That would give me negative 12x squared. And see how I'm lining these up? Since this is an x squared, I'm going to put it under the other x squared term. Excuse me. Then we'll take negative 3 times x. That'll give me negative 3x, and I'll put that under the other x term. I'll take negative 3 times negative 6. That'll give me positive 18. Since there is no other constant term, I'll just line it up in decreasing powers of x. So I have cubed, squared to the first power, and then nothing. That'll give me 8x cubed minus 10x squared minus 15x and plus 18. All I'm doing is I'm basically adding these two together to get my final term. Notice it is in standard form. The biggest power of x is first, then the next one, and then finally our constant. Let's do the same thing with this guy. We'll multiply 6n times each of these three terms. That would give me 12n squared plus 6n squared. Let's see, plus 42n. I'll then take negative 8 times each of these numbers, so they'll get pretty big. That'd be negative 16n squared. That's negative 8n, and that'd be negative 56. I'll then add these two polynomials together. I'll have 12n squared. I'm sorry, that's cubed. Oh boy. 12n cubed. This would be negative 10n squared. This would give me 34n minus 56. Okay, that's all we're looking at today. We're multiplying. Make sure that's a 3 on there. We're going to be multiplying, as we talked about. We multiplied monomials, or binomials by monomials, which is one term like this. Binomials, which looked, well, like the last page, what we did the majority of the time, and by trinomials, which is what we just did those last two problems. You're going to probably have about 18 problems for homework. I appreciate your hard work with this, and I look forward to helping you if you need help. Make sure to ask soon and often.